What's going on, guys? So today we're looking at two new Kansept knives. Well, I shouldn't say new, these have been around for a while. New to you guys, at least on this channel. First time I'm talking about them. But these are two cool little classy little knives. They're basically the same knife with two different versions. The one on the left is called the Wedge. This has a lock on it. And the one on the right is the slip joint version of this knife called the Bevy. All right, but they're literally the same knives. All right, I actually carried the Wedge a little bit more than the Bevy. But it's just nice to have, just as a comparison. I mean, there's a lot of people all around the world that obviously watch the videos. You have very restrictive knife laws and stuff. And if you can't have a locking knife, it's just nice to know that this very cool one that does lock does have, you know, a brother that's friendly worldwide. All right, so that's just the non-locking version of the knife. But essentially, it's the same thing. So if you haven't seen these before, Kansept comes with very cool packaging here. All right, slides off. We have our little pack here. Actually, I took the cleaning cloth out of here. This one had a cleaning cloth in it. And the paperwork, all right, tells you about the warranty and knife care and stuff. Oh, no, I didn't. It's down here. See, I'm smart. I did actually use this to clean the blade, but I was smart enough to put it back in the box. But anyway, these come with nice little sheaths. They're universal sheaths for all the different knives, so it's a little bit big for both the Wedge and the Bevy here. I mean, you can really flap that over. So, yeah, I mean, you could use this for any of your knives, all right? Although it does have the logo there. But yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, they use these sheaths for all different models. So it would have been nice to see maybe a smaller sheath that specifically went with this, or instead of a sheath like this, maybe a pocket slip. So if you're not familiar, it's basically just, it's usually leather, but it's about just the size of the knife. It's just to protect it so it doesn't get all scratched up and scratch other things in your pocket. But it is worth noting that it does come with that. All right, so same full-size ones that you get with other full-size knife models. So yeah, we'll leave this one in the background just to look at. These do come in a ton of different handle colors and stuff. There's one with like a jade G10, which is pretty interesting, pretty cool. If people, you know, I know a lot of people are collecting those with all kinds of different models. But yeah, that's just the slip joint version. All right, so again, we're gonna focus a little bit more on the Wedge, Bevy. I do mix those names up all the time. So yeah, it has a little lock back on it. It does lock up very nicely. All right, very authoritative click there. No blade play at all. I mean, super, super nice lockup. If you look up, you see that connection there with the lock bar and the blade. I mean, it's perfect. There's nothing you can change there. It's absolutely spot on. Now looking at the scales here, obviously this is the green one. It's just really beautiful. Looks really nice. If I turn this just right, you can see the holes that are in there. So it is skeletonized to save a little bit on weight. All right, both of these weigh about the same, 2.4 ounces. As far as size, let me back out a little bit here. Our blade is 2.5 inches. They are both in 154 cm, which is a fantastic steel. It's not a super steel, but it is definitely in the upper echelon of like blue class society. If knife steels were people, it would be the hardworking blue class dude or woman who gets the job done. All right, so no frills, nothing fancy there, but definitely works very well. I'm a huge fan of 154 cm. And I'm also a huge fan of clip point blades, and both these have a nice little clip point, plenty of belly on here. All right, you can see the fuller or notch that goes all the way to the very edge. Just kind of a cool design thing. They do work as nail nicks, all right? So when it's closed, it creates an edge here so you can actually pinch it. If that cut wasn't in there, it'd be very smooth and very hard to get out, all right? So not only does it create an edge, but it actually works as a nail nick as well if you really needed to use that. Generally speaking, you don't really need nail nicks on knives unless the knife blade is really enclosed and it's the only thing that's exposed on the bottom. But generally speaking, as knives get old and used and gunked up and stuff, sometimes they're a little harder to open. You would know if you have like your, you know, grandparents' old slip joint or something. Sometimes they feel like impossible, you know, to open. You really just can't get them because they're all gunked up and rusted and stuff. All right. But anyway, the handle on here is 3.2 inches. And again, these weigh 2.4 ounces. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Nice tension detail, little crowned pivot screw there for the pivot hardware on both sides. So you have two different heads, all right? Keep in mind, if you want to take this knife apart, you will need two Torx drivers for that. All right, so one on either side. You would keep one stable so you can rotate the other one. I know sometimes people will send messages like, oh man, I don't know how to get this knife apart because I'm just turning it and the other side's turning. That's what you need. You need two tools, but you can get them fairly cheap. If I come in close here, look at the blade. You can see the company logo on top and 154 cm. And on the reverse, we have an S. Not sure what the S stands for, But underneath we see Wedge. It's probably a maker's mark for the designer. And then a model. All right, so backing out again. It's just cool. My only real gripe with these, they're done very well. They're small. They're a little bit hard to hold on to. I was doing some heavier work with this one. And it's small. That's inherent. That's not really a critique on the knife. It's meant to be small. It's not small on accident. But that's what I found is I get a 3-finger grip on this. I kind of wish it was a little bit bigger, but that's just what it is. As far as what it's offering, being a small knife, it's very, very well done. Now, as far as price, the going rate for these are about 80 bucks. I see them quite often on dealer sites for $79 for a lot of these versions, but there's ones that are a little bit more expensive as well. I think it's totally worth the 80 bucks because of the 154 cm. If this is rocking like D2 or something else, maybe it'd be more like in the $40, $50 range, but 154 cm really does perform very well. The fit finish are fantastic on here. Again, I can't stress enough how awesome it is. The lockup is just perfect. I mean, there's no wiggle whatsoever. This thing did get heavily used, even though it's small. There were times, that's why I mentioned, you know, being small, where I'm really cutting cardboard hard and it slipped a little bit, slipped in my hand. There's nothing that's particularly extra grippy about these at all. There's no jimping or anything. The scales, although there's a very, very light texture, it's not actually meant to be textured. It just naturally has texture. I'll give you a close-up of that. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, they are small and they are smooth. All right, so if you're going to be using these hard, and most people probably wouldn't use a knife of this size all that hard. Let me go ahead and put both of these next to each other. You see the black compared to the green. But yeah, I mean, that's the inherent drawback for these. All right, and obviously you can see from the back here, there's a lockup as well on the Bevy. It's just perfect. It really is nice. I say lockup. That's how the blade meets the back spring. Obviously, it doesn't lock, as mentioned before. Now, as far as the pressure on the back spring here, it doesn't take all that much to push, but you know, it's obviously not going to close on you unless you put pressure on the back of the blade. The reason people cut themselves with slip joints is not because, oh no, there's no lock, and I was cutting something and it just cut me. It doesn't do that. Knives don't just cut you. What ends up happening is you're cutting through something, you're putting resistance on the edge of the blade, and then maybe, like let's say thick cardboard. As you're cutting through thick cardboard, if you stop cutting and you go backwards and bump into cardboard, or let's say the blade kind of gets jammed or stuck in there, as you're pulling backwards is when you're putting pressure on that blade, and that's what's going to actually fold it. Okay, it doesn't matter if a knife has a lock on it or not. If you're cutting something, it's not going to fold while you're cutting. All the pressure is opening the blade, essentially, as much as possible. It's only when you accidentally bump things is when these become an issue as far as closing on you. So that's it for now, guys. If you happen to have the Kansept Wedge or the Kansept Bevy, let everyone know down in the comment section what you think of yours, but I've been thoroughly impressed. They're just fantastic little knives. I think these make really good backup knives, you know. Again, fifth pocket of your jeans. This can go into, you know, a little pocket organizer. That's where the wedge is going to reside, one of my pocket organizers. It's just a backup blade. You know, it wouldn't be my go-to EDC just because it's on the small side, but they're sharp and ready for action, and they're fantastically made. So there's nothing to really complain about here at all, besides the obvious, yeah, I'd like a bigger knife because I can have more grip on a bigger knife. But as I mentioned before, most people probably won't use this small of a knife for really hard cutting jobs anyway. So it's not really a big deal. But anyway, that's it. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.